Hello and welcome. My name is Modern Literary Witch, and we are back today with another true crime tarot video. I have new camera and I have new audio, so hopefully you guys enjoy this and can hear me better, and it's just overall a better experience. Today we are going to take a look at Bryan Kohberger, the trial coming up in October, and the Idaho, 4 and anybody else remaining in the house. I want to try and clear up as many questions that I think are feasibly possible before things really start to heat up. I have my thoughts, suspicions, and personal biases, and I'm going to try to keep them out of this reading, but I will admit that they are present. So take everything I say today with a grain of salt and for entertainment purposes only. We are going to start our session off today like we always do with our lavender sage smudge spray. Take a deep breath in and out. I am adding a candle this time. And we are going to get started. I'm going to start with Bryan because I know people have a lot of questions about him, about his connection to past or previous crimes, and like what was his thought process going into this crime. I think a lot of people have questions about motivation. There's obviously a level of obsession in this case, but many other people, and myself included, are curious about what about this house made him so obsessed. So for Bryan today, we are using the Tarot of the Haunted House. Now, I'm going to take a deep breath and clear my energy and set my intentions for this reading and connecting to Bryan and just hearing his truth. Okay? So, I'm going to invite the energy of Bryan Kohberger into this reading. We are here with peaceful intentions. We're not meant to antagonize. We're just here to hear your truth. So I'm going to shuffle now, and I'm going to ask for an identifier card for Bryan. Show me an identifier card for Bryan. The Three of Pentacles. Show me an identifier for Bryan. Show me an identifier for Bryan. One more. Okay, Sorry, I'm a little shocked right now because I've done some kind of like side polls on my own, and I've also watched Aphrodite's videos on the Idaho 4 and then his most recent one with Bryan's indictment happening and his trial date being set for October. And I remember the Three of Pentacles coming up. And there was this kind of conversation happening in this thought forming about Bryan potentially having DID, dissociative identity disorder. And if I were to wager a guess, I would assume there was 3 identities in this system. There's the smart and calculating identity. There's the impulsive, chaotic, radical identity. And then there's this like hard-working, work ethic, like responsible person inside of him. And these 3 people are constantly fighting for control. Because one of the things Aphrodite kind of brought up, and I don't want to refer to his reading too much, but like that he felt Bryan was gonna like say something like he genuinely doesn't remember doing this, like why would he do this, like he believes himself. And if this identity is present in the moment, they do believe themselves because these 2 people are in the dark. You know what I mean? So this is our identifier. We're going to hold on to this for a minute. And I want to ask about pre-Idaho, pre-Washington, what was going on. Pre-Idaho, pre-Washington, back in Pennsylvania, what was going on. Want to expand on that? That's not helping your case. What happened? Why? Why did that happen? So some people were wondering if he's connected to a murder in Pennsylvania. And from these 3 sitting right here, we have the Ace of Wands, the Emperor, and the King of Pentacles. I would say, yeah, I would say there is a connection to at least a crime, if not a murder in Pennsylvania with him. It was his first kill. Like, seriously, when I saw this, that was the first thing I thought was like, oh, he's a hunter. Like, imagery in these cards does matter. And it was his first conquest. It was his first success, which made him think that he could get away with it. And this is literally saying first. Like, so, I don't know if it's the one people think it is. I know there's a particular case that people are talking about, but there is one that I would say he is connected to in some form or fashion, and there has to be a level of success in it because otherwise he wouldn't be as confident as he is. Now, let's talk about Idaho. I want to know the motivation and energy going into that house. Eight of Pentacles. Want to expand on that? Elaborate any? I think, oh my god, okay, so, I have so many questions. We have the Eight of Pentacles, which is kind of like a manifestation, working hard, like receiving your bounty from, you know, your hard work. But then we also have the Five of Pentacles, which is an insecurity card, which is interesting. But then we have the Magician again on top of it. And there has been a lot of speculation about this particular house being a party house, potentially being a drug house, and there being some covered up drug connections relating to why it took the remaining two roommates to essentially contact police. There's a whole story there, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll maybe elaborate later on that. But I do think, so there's also speculation that Bryan was a drug addict back when he was in high school, and he had supposedly got clean. But, you know, you move out to Washington, you're on your own, away from family for the first time, you're escaping whatever you got away with over here, and your professor studies BTK, which is great, love that for him, and you're like, wow, great idea, I'm getting good at what I'm doing. These people may have slighted me, maybe it's because they're pretty and they're making a lot of money and they're doing it through drugs, and maybe he was getting into some drug deals with them and that's how he knew these people, and also thought that would work out in his benefit, because if somebody came through and hypothetically slaughters 4 college students, maybe they would just draw it back to some drug connection had he not messed up and left behind what is presumed to be a ton of evidence, if not anything, at least the sheath to the knife he was using. So he's got some concrete stuff he's got to fight. I just want to put in here personal bias. I do think Bryan did this. I'm not here to like advocate for his innocence, but I am here to understand his psychology and his mind and where he was at and why he made the decisions that he did. And like I said, kind of get some answers and insight to this, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a drug connection here, and if this could also be part of his defense coming up in the trial, is that like, hey, it wasn't me, look at all these people that were in and out of the house all the time, and like, maybe they slighted someone on the college campgrounds, and maybe they owed somebody money, and yada yada yada. Like, there's already been some stirrings of controversy in that realm of this case, so I'll be interested to see how this all plays out. But there was definitely a level of like him needing to feed the monster here, having an opportunity, and things just kind of came together the way that he thought he needed to get away with it, and yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to get away with this one. This is the Four of Cups, and it's distance, apathy. Honestly, it's just lack of caring and kind of being sloppy, if you ask me. So that's my general reading on Bryan. I hope that answers some questions for you guys. We're going to move on now to the trial. Okay, now we are going to pull some cards on what to expect for the upcoming trial and any hearings between now and the upcoming trial in October. I'm just going to do a past, present, future on this quickly, and we'll go from there. So give me a past in relation to this trial. Give me a present in relation to this trial. Give me a future in relation to this trial. So I'm going to take a look at our guidebook. For our past, we have Triumph of Lies. And I'm interested to see what this says. So this is number 1. Interesting. So we have moon phase, waxing gibbous, stage bargain. If something hurts me, I can change myself so it can stop. Visual seed. Headless mannequins crowd against each other under a cold neon light. They are dressed in luxury clothes and pricey accessories. Among them, one has crowned skull floating where her face is supposed to be. Sentence. Not all that glitters is gold. Emptiness is felt where nothing is under the dress. Going dark. The triumph of lies is about appearance, and appearance is always so important in the world. Day by day it seems more important. Can that be a lie too? We seek to be what the world outside desires, not necessarily society at large. Our family or partners or friends place judgments on what we should be. In the dress we choose, we carve a mass of expectations, behaviors, and values to live by. It offers stability to ourselves and to our relations. As honest and true to ourselves can be too tiring, too easy to make us hurt. Unfortunately, the relationship with our mask is not as straightforward as it feels. Inside the mask, envy grows, vanity takes root, lack of self-confidence becomes habit, it gnaws at us, and hurts us from the inside. It feels like it is ourselves, but it's not really authentic. It is just a lie we have made. It's just a lie we have made habit to believe in. When our lives become gilded cage and our dress becomes a burden, we should remember what we were born naked. Reading that and thinking about his apprehension and being taken into custody, there was speculation that he says, was anybody else being arrested if it was just him? And then reading that, it reminds me of Dexter, specifically the TV show, and just more specifically New Blood, when he actually finally kind of becomes captured in a sense. And for him specifically, he'd been living the way that he had been for so long that capture was just unacceptable. And for Bryan, once he was captured, it was, embracing the mask of like, no way I could have done this. And he has been kind of riding that familiarity, that habit of wearing that mask of what the outside world sees him as, and you can see this continuing in our present, which is Masquerade, which literally, like, he's wearing a mask. We're not seeing the true him, but this 6 and 7 over here I'm really interested in, but I will go read number 15 quickly. Masquerade is waning gibbous, stage bargain. still in bargaining. I think that's really interesting. What I can't have forever, I will have for a minute. What I can't have for a minute, I will hold with me for 1 second. Visual seed, a man's face, young in the flesh and posture, with a wide open shirt over him, appears the most complicated Baroque hat straight from a Venetian carnival. Sentence, under the guise of Cupid, I will come to you. Under the guise of a thief, I will fly away. Going dark. There is often guilt in taking the mask of Don Juan or Donna Juana. The seducer is not a master of love, neither of manipulation. He is the master of the ephemeral, of what fleeting and brief transient to the extreme. He is the master of the moment, and as such forgot all other kind of eternity. There is guilt if you care, because you are not building. There is guilt out of loss because you are not treasuring. There is guilt out of indifference because when you don't care, you cheat yourself of meaning and value. Sometimes there is guilt in selflessness, in the desire itself, in everything leading to pleasure, as if the only pleasure can be sacred are those labeled as such. The masquerade is a dance. It is a road that goes in circles and ebbs and flows and always ends with the first light, before the time comes to hold it tightly. When the time comes, let it go. So that is Masquerade, and that's kind of what he is personally, where he is presently. And our future, we have Alone in the World and Sacrifice, which I find really interesting. So we have Sacrifice, Alone in the World. So here we have Alone in the World. And this reads as Moon Phase, 3rd quarter, stage acceptance. In solitude I stand, in solitude I may shine. Visual seed. Under the morning light in a closed and silent court, paved with stones laced by trees, a beautiful woman sits naked on a precious bench. Many blankets or drapes are around her, in color red and white like discarded wings. Sentence. I made my home a closeteer, my heart a chalice for the faintest breeze, and yet I stand alone. Going dark. Waiting for something to come back. When we parted ways, we promised to each other, I will wait for you, and I will come back. We may have used different words like, it's just for a few months, or a sharper pen like, I don't need you. Still, we are waiting. Mind has lost hope. Body has lost memory, but our heart is still incomplete. It is shrined into a blessed feeling of longing and desire, innocence and hope, but it is also entombed into a well of solitude and distance. It built walls to stall the passage of time, and the walls kept out everything. Will the prince come, or has the world gone silent while we waited? Waiting is a transition. It is the beginning and it has an end. Waiting is the night. Morning brings the sun of a new day. And then we have Sacrifice, which reads as Moon Phase, Waning Gibbous, Stage Anger. Even if I have to break apart, as long as it serves a purpose. Visual seed. A beautiful female knight wears heavy armor. She holds a blade in front of her, and a blade of light slices across her face, showing the deadly seriousness of her state, the mirror of her resolve. Sentence. I have accepted my duty, and in my release I found freedom. Going dark. There is a strong power in sacrifice. Our fears, our hopes, they are all chains to a small world. Our sense of self is a small petty creature, of uncertain resolve and shaky horizons. With sacrifice we renounce our sense of self. We accept to be lost. We accept to be shaken and cut and bruised and hurt and burdened and locked and stricken and despised and gossiped and betrayed and to be misunderstood and to be left alone, to rot, to die. With just words of thanks while the world goes on over our broken dreams. But when we drown our sense of self to sacrifice, we are also a greater person. We are screaming, I exist, I make the difference. We accepted a price to pay, and we used our blood and tears as currency. that gives us the right to stand tall. What is about this case that we're missing? What is it we are missing? So I'm pulling out the Tarot of the Haunted House again, and what are we missing? There's something happening here. Tell me what we are missing. Was there a relationship? Okay. Crystal Ball Pocket Oracle. This is great for yes/no questions. Did Bryan Kohberger have a relationship with someone in the house? Yes or no? Did he imagine a relationship with someone in the house? Okay. That's what I needed. Thank you. So yes, he imagined a relationship with someone in the house. Did that person know? Is that person aware? No. Okay. So knowing that, this reads to me is he was there partying one night. He crashed the party, so this is 9 of Cups. This is content, satisfied, given that this old man is holding a wine bottle and this is a cups card, I'm going to assume there was some sort of alcohol involved. He quickly became obsessed with someone that was there. We have the 8 of Wands, which is things happening quickly, impulsive, that other identity coming out, and then Lover's card, some sort of relationship. He very quickly became obsessed with this relationship, which, you know, you can see her creeping in on here, like, probably what happened, that's him, and that's whatever person he became obsessed with, and creeping on her, quickly started plotting. This is the King of Swords. I'm fairly certain it was the King of Swords. And, you know, he just, again, continued obsession and plotting and probably hatched this plan. And then Judgment happened. So that's him making this decision, in my opinion. But I also find it interesting that, like, it seemed like because there was 2 survivors, it's like he very specifically targeted the 4 that he did because he had something against them. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then we have the 5 of Wands, which is the conflict happening, essentially the night happening, in my opinion. Which is weird. Yeah. So this sacrifice, which is part of the reason why I was like, what are we missing, is he is still obsessed, but he thinks he still did a good thing, and he's willing to pay the price for that. Can't say I agree with that logic or understanding, but hey. not my decision, not my life. I'm just here to get insight on what happened and why it happened the way that it happened. And I'm starting to get a clearer picture, and things from my first reading are starting to make a bit more sense. So I'm going to put these cards away. Okay, now we are going to switch to the Unfolding Path Tarot and read the house. I'm going to start with identifiers for everybody in the house, and I want to do a quick... We are going to pull 6 cards for each person in the house that night. We are going to start with Kaylee. Can I get an identifier card for Kaylee? Can I get an identifier card for Madison? Can I get an identifier for Xana? Can I get an identifier for Ethan? We got quite a few, but I will take them and we'll go through them because he wanted that. Can I get an identifier for Dylan? Can I get an identifier for Bethany? Okay. Weird. We'll talk about this. We'll see if we want to pull any cards on anybody else, but first we have Kaylee and we have the 7 of Swords. At first this seems a little ominous because swords can be thief, or it can be somebody being sneaky or a liar, and I actually think this is just her, like, getting her shit together and trying to get out of Dodge. She was the one that was moving out, and this was like her last weekend here, and it just happened to be really bad timing for how everything happened. I don't know if there's further involvement here in this situation. There potentially is, but this feels like an escaping energy more than it is an attacking energy. We have Madison with the Queen of Cups. She seemed like someone who was really emotionally mature, and probably was like really an opposite to Kaylee in this sense, as maybe she was trying to like counter some of Kaylee's decisions. I wouldn't be surprised if Kaylee was also a little defensive at times, and that caused her to be a little sharp, because I'm sensing the energy overall in this house was kind of dark, and Madison was like the light in all this dark, and she was just trying to make the best out of kind of a crappy situation. But you know, she was very much like the emotionally mature person in this house. Next we have Xana, and you know, she was trying so hard, and she just was so full of hope and optimism. It was just trying to make the best of the situation and everything that has happened in her life. I think a lot of bad stuff has happened to her in her younger years, and she was really just trying to do something with her life in college, and I think she also just kind of got stuck at a bad place in a bad time, and it's super unfortunate, and this whole situation is, but like, I'm really feeling for these two in that sense of like, they were completely innocent in this situation is the energy that I'm getting from them. And it just, again, wrong place, wrong time sort of vibes, and that like hurts the most, I think. And then we have Ethan here with the Nine of Pentacles, the High Priestess, the Nine of Cups, the Chariot, and the Four of Swords. So we have I don't know exactly what Ethan's trying to get across here, but like the Nine of Pentacles is success. I would say even this is like he kind of came from money. He also has the High Priestess here, and that seems like an intuitive thing. I don't know if this is like specifically connecting to like maybe he knew something was up with Bryan and tried to sound the alarm, but you know, it just didn't work or whatever. But there's also just like a level of like intuition here, and again like maturity and just wisdom. But it's an interesting card. And then we have the Nine of Cups, which is again like another contentment, success, satisfaction sort of feeling. We have the Chariot, which is like movement, going places, evolving. This could also be in reference to a car, transportation. And then we have the Four of Swords, which in the traditional sense of this card is just rest and relaxation and just like allowing yourself to rest. But then like we're talking about this case, and this kind of seems like dying too young sort of vibe is what I'm getting out of this. I think with all of these together and kind of going through that and knowing he was with Xana and she was so full of hope and optimism, I think they were really trying to build a life together, and they were ready to like move on to that next step, and that got taken from them too early, obviously. This is so weird. So, okay, I'm going to separate these three, this, and then we're going to talk about these two down here. So, this is the card I pulled for Dylan, and it is the Queen of Swords. This is a cold and calculating sort of person, and as you can see, it's also kind of a dark card, which is not helping with the vibes of this reading. And then I can't talk about her without talking about this card, which is the card I pulled for Bethany, which is the Devil. I want an additional identifier for both Dylan and Bethany. So, additional identifier for Dylan. Okay, we're gonna pull these. Additional identifier for Bethany. Are we gonna go through this whole thing? Okay, let's try it. Let's see where this takes us. Okay, so we're gonna look at Dylan a little bit more in depth, and We have the Nine of Swords, which is anxiety and insecurity. We have the Sun. We have the Ten of Wands. And we have the Ten of Pentacles. I'm going to read Bethany quick now. So we have the Seven of Cups, Four of Wands, Seven of Pentacles, King of Pentacles, the Magician, Four of Cups, Six of Cups, Seven of Wands, and Five of Swords. Oh, okay. So I think I'm not going to speculate on any sort of premeditation in this, but if I were to speculate on what happened post-murder is... Wow, this is a roller coaster of emotions. So when I'm thinking of Dylan, what I feel when I see this Nine of Swords is something bad's happened, and she's feeling a lot of anxiety, and she's scared. But then there's also a part of her that's happy, and this is the part that's like I've always struggled with in this case. After hearing about and reading the probable cause affidavit and hearing Dylan's statement to the police, there's something that just doesn't add up about this story, at least post-murder. Like, there's a level of responsibility here that's being completely ignored, which is 4 people were bleeding out in this apartment, in this house, and 2 of these people did nothing to help those 4. And I don't accept the, oh, I had no idea what was going on story. Not a bit. And so, with Dylan, I'm getting the feeling of like, yes, there was being afraid, there was anxiety there, but then there was also a part of her that was like relieved. And something to do with hard work and burden and maybe a release of burden because of resentment towards the other people in the house. And then at the end here we have legacy. Like, whatever this is going to end up being her legacy. Like, she's going to have to live with this the rest of her life. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll find out. And then with Bethany, I'm picking up on something I had never even fully considered before. And what I'm picking up on is, I think she was the drug dealer connection. This devil, at first I was like, I have no idea what to read this as. I don't know if this is like intentional maliciousness or something else, but I actually think it's addiction, and I think it's drugs. And the Seven of Cups is choices, and I think this was multiple drugs. I think it would make a lot of sense that she was partaking in multiple substances and joined a community by doing said substances and started making money through that community doing those substances. And this would be the connection to the person above her responsible for those things. And this is the part where things kind of turn. If you remember back to the section of Bryan's reading, there was that magician that I was talking about, and that's where this connection is coming in. And there's this apathy again that's popping up, and then we have this Six of Cups, which is sharing and generosity. So even if there wasn't a physical relationship with these two, I wouldn't be surprised if there is some sort of connection to Dylan and Bethany in why Bryan didn't target them, and that he would, like, in some ways he's helping them. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a drug connection at this point. We have the Seven of Wands, which is like a self-defense, aggressive card. It is also courage, conviction, defense, and protection. So, like, things go down. Obviously, I don't think she actually had to defend herself, but probably locked herself in her room as an attempt to defend herself. And it's kind of coming out the other side of this surviving, but also being, scared and insecure and traumatized, because who wouldn't be after something like this? So, can I say there is a direct link between this house and Bryan? Not necessarily. Do I think there's some indirect links between this house and Bryan? 100%. And do I think Bryan, when he says, "I'm here to help you," is talking to someone like Bethany or Dylan? 100%. I think he was kind of playing vigilante in this case. Whether we'll fully understand what that vigilantism really was, probably not. I think that's going to get brushed over quite a bit. Do I think there was a serious relationship between him and anybody in this house? No. Do I think he had a perceived relationship with himself between someone in this house? Yes. I kind of mentioned when I started the house reading that, Kaylee was trying to get out. And I think it wasn't an accident that this happened this weekend, which happened to be her last weekend at the house. I think that part was crucial to the planning of this, and I think the other three people ended up kind of being innocent bystanders in this crime. But I don't think his obsession was with Kaylee in the way that people think it is. Do I think he thought she was pretty? Obviously, but I think the resentment that was building there wasn't necessarily a sexual based one as much as it was like, hey, you're making everybody else's life hell, and I'm gonna help them by hurting you. And I think that's why this case has been so weird in terms of the profiling and the psychology of it, because it is a more unusual motive, but I think that this explanation explains that motive and explains how things escalated the way that they did. I would literally bet money right now that there's some sort of drug involvement in this case, and I am very fascinated to see if that's going to come out in trial, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't, because in a way, based on my trial reading with the sacrifice card, I wouldn't be surprised if Bryan kind of falls on his own sword sort of situation and lets the state paint this other sort of picture that isn't at all really why he did what he did. And I can already see that with the way that a lot of people are interpreting this case and interpreting his decisions and motivations. and I think we're not quite on the mark. I think this is the closest I've been able to come to fully understanding the mark myself. And yeah, so this is my reading of the Bryan Kohberger, Idaho 4 true crime case. Trial will start in October, and if you're interested in hearing the final facts when they come out, I suggest you tune in then. Next reading, I'm going to do Madeleine McCann. There was just, I guess, kind of a break in her case, and I want to look deeper into that situation and find out what's going on. I might also go back and redo my other readings, just because I have better audio and camera setup now. So thank you for coming to this reading. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more true crime readings just like this.